in your practice, or even some of the research you've done, let's say you've been with a client for, whatever age. What do you see on the other side of when they come into your office, and then 2 or 3 years later? Like, are there any stories you can share from what men that may have went through that process and new decisions that they made later on?
Yeah, I won't reveal any particular circumstance,
Mm,
but generally speaking, it's about shaping a new, more robust and expansive sense of self. As you're talking about, sort of the conformity to these restrictive masculine norms, a lot of men operate in this very small space.
yeah.
And you're right. By doing so, you cut yourself off from so much in life, so much of what we actually need as human beings to live and feel well. And there's not one way to sort of practice masculinity, if you will. We as individuals must define our own masculine selves, and
Hmm.
there's plurality to that. We don't act in one sort of standard way across all different experiences in life.
Right.
If you do, again, you miss out on a lot and you're going to have a very lonely life. But I can still feel like a good, strong man by being very tender and caring in some moments, and maybe taking a leadership role and being firm in others. I'm still the same person. I feel strong and confident in myself in both. And in both, I feel like I'm being a good man. You
Right.
know, the leadership and taking a firm role, that maybe more aligns with what our traditional sense of masculinity is. But in the other, it's like I'm caring. I'm supporting people in my life. That makes me feel good as being a caring, supportive person and man. But I react differently in that kind of situation than the other example I gave. So
Hmm.
we need to be flexible in our own minds, first of all, of how we shape our own sense of self, and then that allows more flexibility to engage with people in different ways depending on the circumstances. And once you understand that, and once you give yourself the freedom and develop the skills to be able to do that, so much of the world opens up to you. There's a greater sense of contentment with life and about yourself that comes, more rich and rewarding experiences. Often we define purpose and meaning in our lives through interpersonal situations
Hmm.
and experiences. And so we develop more meaning in our lives that way. And just life feels richer.
Right. I like that because it's an idea I've been thinking about a lot, about emotional adaptability. I think we realize, like, how the human species have survived this long is we can adapt to the elements, right?
Hmm.
Like, we can swim, we can climb high mountain peaks, we can survive the cold and the heat, and all of these things. And if we weren't able to do that, there'd be a lot less humans, and, probably better for the planet. But if we're more adaptive, we can flourish in way more environments. And it also speaks to why this idea of the alpha male is such a complete joke, because there are so many different um, contexts in which we live our lives as human beings. So you can't be a quote unquote alpha, let's say, on the basketball court, and then you go into your job where maybe you're a janitor. Like, you're not the alpha in that environment that you're going to be in. And then maybe you go to a, I don't know, another situation that will cause for something completely different. Maybe you'll need to play what some people would call the beta role. That's more a supportive role, which everyone needs in some environment, because no one exists as an island, as you were saying. So if you don't have this adaptability to be able to change and to be able to accept all of your emotions as well, I think it makes us as men much weaker, because you can't accept when you're hurt. So you just have to be angry again. You can't accept when you're super happy. You just have to be stoic again, or all of these things. And yeah, sure, there's probably even context for this idea of stoicism. Maybe at some point you need to suppress to be strong for someone else, and then you can let loose. I mean, there's always this bit of nuance, but to think
Mhm.
that we shouldn't be emotionally adaptive, which is exactly what I think this ultimately this idea of masculinity is telling us, that we have to be one way, like you said, in this very narrow band of existence. And not only is it unhelpful and dangerous, God, it's so boring. It's so boring. Like I can't imagine anymore like being in like a sad movie or a really really beautiful film, and not like laughing my ass off, or shedding some tears, instead of just being there with my arms crossed and being like, oh, that looks funny. Oh, sad. Like I can't even imagine an existence like that. And so as I go through all this research and speaking with experts like yourself, it just makes me sadder and sadder for boys that are disincentivized from being their full selves. And it speaks to why there is such an epidemic of loneliness in men, but also this terrible specter of suicide that is so terrible, that thankfully more people are talking about now, but still not enough. Like the numbers we're typically given, and correct me if I'm wrong, is around 3 to 4 to 1, men to women. But if you look in countries like, I believe it's like Latvia, Poland, Russia, it's like 6 or 7 to 1. Like these are things that should be alarm bells everywhere.